I didn't want to rehearse anything, so I'm coming off the top of the head from inside the heart. I don't even know if I said that right, but if you don't know who I am your executive producer here at the Pro Wrasslin Reflection PWR show. Big Ray Hernandez, and the professor asked me to, say a couple of things about the passing of both Terry Funk and Windham Rotunda, aka Bray Wyatt. And I guess I'll kick it off with Terry Funk. One of my fondest and one of the coolest memories that I remember of Terry Funk, a lot of people will remember him from ECW. I remember him back when it was the NWA, and Ric Flair had just defeated Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I believe it was a Clash of Champions for the NWA World Heavyweight title. And at this time, Ric Flair was a mega heel, and of course, Ricky Steamboat was the huge baby face. Came to the ring with his wife and his son, and I remember at the end of the match, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat got respect from Ric Flair. Ric Flair, it was kind of like a face turn for Ric Flair. At this point, I had never seen Ric Flair, being so gracious in winning. And then I remember Terry Funk coming in the ring, and Terry Funk, he wanted to congratulate Ric Flair and stuff like that, but he had his eyes on the 10 pounds of gold, and at that time it was probably 20 pounds, the big gold belt. But anyway, I remember Terry Funk just saying, "Hey man, it's I'm paraphrasing here, but I just wanted to congratulate you. I didn't mean to steal your shine or take your glory or anything like that. I'm sorry. I apologize." And I was like, "Oh man, look at old Terry Funk, being all sorry." And Terry Funk comes and beats the living hell out of Ric Flair. And I remember the vision of him, that being Terry Funk, pile driving Ric Flair not through a table, onto a table, because this was like the thickest, strongest table I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, wow, whoa, this is going to be good. And it was a great feud between those two. And then I remember later on, a couple of years down the line, tuning in to watch this crazy wrestling promotion that was so real. This is real. People were telling me it's real. It's like, what are you talking about? Real? At the time, there was kind of like that shoot wrestling thing going on. And I remember seeing Terry Funk on this thing called ECW. And I was like, wow, man, I remember Terry Funk, and my God, I was able to continue to follow his career. I remember him when he first started in the WWF. Well, not in the WWF, not when he first started, but, when I first saw him as a kid, it was in the WWF, from Double Cross Ranch, and his brother Dory was already older. But I was able to, as I grew older, I was able to read the magazines and look at old VHS tapes and really appreciate all the work he did. That moment when he won the NWA World Heavyweight title was just absolutely tremendous, and I was yelling, "Well, forever, that was like true passion, man. And I do know a lot of people personally that actually work with Terry Funk, and he was just somebody who really wanted to and always wanted to give to the business. Paul Heyman did they were talking to Paul Heyman on the ECW, I think it was the Monday Night Wars, if I'm correct. I can't remember. But I remember one thing that always stuck out to me was when Paul Heyman was talking about Terry Funk. Terry Funk took joy in building people up, making superstars. I'll work with him. Oh, I would love to work with him. I'd love to get that kid over. That is so missing from the business nowadays. Terry Funk, got to live a nice, incredible, long life. And he did a lot. He's lived 1,000 lives. Almost hit 80. Like they say, one hell of a run. So big respect to an absolute legend, somebody who exemplified, the love of professional wrestling, the entire business. A hell of a promo, one hell of a look. That spinning toe hold was deadly. Don't forget the gimmick where when he used to brand people. Yo, man, it was crazy. But Terry Funk was he lived a nice, wonderful, long life, and as you guys know, or if you don't know, the fact that Terry Funk made it this long and wrestled for that long is incredible. What an indelible spirit. Rest in peace to the legend. ECW legend, NWA legend, WWF legend, anywhere he was, anywhere, any building, any organization he stepped into, he was a legend. Rest in peace, Terry Funk. This one is tough. And now, I just spoke about Terry Funk, and this one is very tough. I remember back when Owen passed away, Owen Hart. It was such a shock. And I liked Owen Hart. But, there's something, and maybe he connected with you. I just never had that connection with Owen Hart. God bless him. But Eddie Guerrero was something different. And when Eddie Guerrero passed away, I remember literally bawling, crying, almost as if like a family member died. A family member had passed away. Eddie Guerrero connected with me. I cared for him. I had love for him. I had watched his career grow from Lucha Libre into the WCW. And then he defected to the WWF at the time as a radical, and then finally beating Brock Lesnar and becoming the world champion. The reason I'm talking about this is because Eddie was young, man. And then you have Bray Wyatt. Now, the reason why, Bray Wyatt connects with me on so many different levels. Number one, I think and people may not, there are a lot of people that talk so much about Bray Wyatt, and some of it negative, some of it positive. I've always been more of a positive person when it came when it came to talking about Bray Wyatt. And again, nothing's rehearsed. This is all coming from my heart. And Bray Wyatt, I always thought was an incredible genius. I mean, I think we only got to see a very small microcosm of what that character was. I mean, deep cuts, the Anunnaki, lizard people, the things that he would talk about were way over the head of, I'm sure, every writer in the WWE and Vince McMahon himself, and even 90% of the fans. It was brilliant, man. And he, you have to give this guy credit. They booked him as Husky Harris when we knew he was Rotunda's kid, Mike Rotunda's kid. And then he was able to totally have us absolutely forget about Rotunda, forget about Husky Harris, and become this indelible character, this amazing character, Bray Wyatt. He started off, man, talking about the Fireflies. He started off, man, talking about how he was the eater of worlds. I remember one of his first FCW promos. He had a little bit more of a Cajun, He's like, I had a daddy. He had a shrimp boat. And I lit that boat on fire. Somehow it caught on fire. My daddy sunk with that boat. Everybody knew Mike Rotunda was his father, but he made you believe in this character. And I remember him saying something along the lines of, and I went away for a long time, and I taught myself to read C Spot Run. I started with C Spot Run, but mostly I read the good book. And he made you freaking absolutely get sucked into that character. And then with Luke Harper and just the sheep mask. And I mean, it was so deep. I loved it and I connected with it. I was like, this is, you know, some people will say, oh, it's too hokey, it's too magical. No, this was for me pro wrestling. And the reason why, and another reason why I connected with it, there's 3 reasons. That's one reason. Number 2 was because my son absolutely loved Bray Wyatt. Loved Bray Wyatt. He, if you go to his Instagram at Aiden Dude, I think it is, I was like, man, this kid really posts about Bray Wyatt, little cartoons about Bray Wyatt and little animations about Bray Wyatt. And he just kept going on and on. He loved him some Bray Wyatt. And I understood why he loved Bray Wyatt so much. He was different. He was special. My son dressed up like Funhouse Bray Wyatt. Think about this. He was able to get past Husky Harris, become that crazy Cajun character, that cult leader, and then become this crazy Mr. Rogers-like character who also had a darker side, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Or what was it? I think that's right. Again, I didn't rehearse this. And he got those characters over. And then when he came back again, when we heard that he was sick, I was so into like the Uncle Howdy thing, and I was like, wow, where is this character going? And my son loved it, and I couldn't wait to take my son to see wrestling, to see Bray Wyatt in this new iteration. My son got to see him. I never got to see him wrestle live. And now I'm welling up a little bit, and I'll explain to you why. I was laying down on the sofa, and my son wakes me up. We had literally, I kid you not, we're speaking about Bray Wyatt the day before. Actually, no, we were speaking about him that morning during breakfast. I had taken him out to the diner. And my son says, Dad, wake up. I was taking a nap. I'm old. And he told me that Bray Wyatt passed away, and I said, no. I immediately jumped on the phone. No, it has to be fake. See TMZ reporting and all these people that I know, that I trust, reporting. And I couldn't believe it, man. Young man in his 30s. And this is the 3rd reason why I connected with him as a father. My biggest fear is leaving this earth and leaving my son, and as a husband, leaving my wife behind to mourn my loss, because I love them so much. And to hear how much Bray Wyatt loved his family, loved his kids, how good a person he was, and how much care he had in his heart, not only for the business, that's one thing, but as how much love and devotion he had for his family, that broke my soul. There's this video of this little boy standing outside an arena in an empty parking lot, and I think Bray had promised to come back, and he did. Just Bray pulled open the gates just for that kid. Gave the kid a hug, gave the kid a high five, took pictures with the kid, spent time with that little boy. In those 4 minutes, that little kid will never forget. I don't mean to break down, but this one really hurt. I hurt for his wife. And as a son who lost his father at the age of 31, and I felt cheated, I can't imagine what his kids are going through right now. And also as a father for Mike Rotunda, to see his son die before him. It's not supposed to be that way. You know the old saying, you're not supposed to bury your kids. And then to lose a brother, Bo Dallas losing his brother. I mean, it's just such a great loss. I really wish, on listening to all the WWE wrestlers talk about him, and it's sincere, man. These people really loved him. All right, I'm going too long here. I just wanted to say that I think that Bray Wyatt is absolutely a WWE Hall of Famer. I want you to really wrap your head around what this man did in 10 years. Just as the Bray Wyatt character. He came in 2009. I think it's well deserved. And man, just love and hug each other. Appreciate every day. Every day is a gift. And tomorrow is never promised. With that being said, a tearful, stuffy-nosed executive producer is wishing you guys nothing but love, health, happiness, and many days to come. God bless you guys. And thank you, Professor and Tommy Wonder, for doing what you do every single week. Pro Wrasslin Reflection. Oh yeah, one more quick thing. Remember I had told you guys how much Aiden loved Bray Wyatt? Aiden did like a quick little minute-long tribute to Bray Wyatt, fully edited by himself, and I thought I'd toss it on here. So with that being said, we'll jump into Aiden's tribute, and then we'll jump into the actual podcast, the Pro Wrasslin Reflection tribute to the late great Terry Funk and Windham Rotunda, aka Bray Wyatt. May these two men rest in peace and live on forever. I said that like Bray Wyatt, live on forever.
When the lights go out, you should run. I would like to welcome you all to the era of Wyatt! Start every morning with a smash. If I told you a story, could you keep a secret?
I ain't hard to find. All you gotta do is go look up in the sky and follow the buzzer.
Oh, little one, my little one. Come with me. Your life is done. Forget the future. Forget the past. Life is over. Breathe your last.
The WWE family is saddened to learn of the passing of one of the most iconic figures in sports entertainment, WWE Hall of Famer Terry Funk.
I didn't want to be president. I didn't want to be anything. I knew what I wanted to be since I could walk. I wanted to wrestle.
Born into a wrestling family, Terry Funk burst onto the scene with his brother Dory Funk Jr. as part of their father's homegrown promotion in Amarillo, Texas.
The Funks are legends. I've always looked up to Terry Funk. I love watching him work in the ring. I love the unpredictability.
Unbelievable work ethic, and Terry Funk was a great performer. I learned a lot from Terry Funk.
Terry's rugged, no-nonsense style captivated the NWA audience, catapulting him to great success.
Terry Funk has just achieved the NWA World Heavyweight Championship.
I'm going to go ahead and prove to you people that I will be the finest champion that this world has ever seen.
Terry's popularity captured the attention of Hollywood.
You're a dead man.
There is just one of me.
Terry would continue to captivate audiences all around the globe.
I am middle-aged and crazy like a fox.
Making an impact in WCW, ECW, and WWE, where his matches with WWE Hall of Famer Mick Foley would pioneer the hardcore style.
Terry was ahead of his time in the sense that he did things that nobody ever did before.
These former foes would then go on to join forces, reaching ultimate triumph at WrestleMania 14.
Terry Funk, Cactus Jack are the new tag team champions.
Terry Funk is one of the nicest guys, one of the kindest guys. I feel fortunate. He had a way of bringing out the best in me.
In 2009, alongside his brother Dory Funk Jr., Terry would take his rightful place in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Before it was fashionable to call ourselves ECW, Terry Funk was extreme.
I want to thank you so much. You make an old man feel good. Thank you.
I'm going to go on record as saying, in my own personal opinion, Terry Funk's the greatest superstar of all time.
A 5-decade career that may never be replicated. Terry's tireless dedication left an indelible mark on the sports entertainment world. The WWE family will remember Terry Funk as a family man, a fearless entertainer, and an unforgettable pioneer.
We love you guys. We love you.
He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
I guess I've created some kind of buzz here, man.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Behold, a new face of fear. Walk by my side, and I will lead you to paradise.
We're here. See your body dancing, feel the magic on the floor. They try to say we lost you, but they never cared, go. You never had a last time, you couldn't outshine. You gave us everything, and now your memory's mine.
This is the Firefly Funhouse.
You know who you are the ever know. You shine on, you shimmer. You wanna see my secret? Sunset in the space between the shores. You never met a darkness you couldn't outshine. You left us everything, but still you're leaving us more.
I can truly say that I have the whole damn world in my hand. I would like to welcome you all to the era of Wyatt! This is my favorite new toy. This is such good.
You're more than just a photograph. Fluorescent in my mind, we're still together. Your spirit is all over me.
And the color red, in a world full of black and white. I am the eater of worlds. I, Bray Wyatt, am forever.
Follow you on to wherever you go. Never give in. You are the ever known.
And I can look all of you in the eyes and I can say, thank you.
This is the Pro Wrestling Spotlight, presented by Hami Media and the Pro Wrasslin Reflection, where we discuss the very best of the best in pro wrestling history.
And what's it gonna do when Hulkamania and the largest arms in the world run wild on you?
The two soundest wrestlers in the World Wrestling Federation, maybe in the history of the World Wrestling Federation, are right here, right now. Mr. Perfect and the excellence of execution, the Hitman.
WrestleMania weekend isn't complete without the Heartbreak Kid, and he is on his way.
He put hard times on Dusty Rhodes and his family.
They think they got the answers. I change the question.
You will rest in peace.
Get used to it in Ric Flair. Who you're looking at, the man.
What is going on there, Reflection Knights? What is going on there to the Big Vitoites, the Hami Knights, and all the ites? And as you can tell by the professor in his melancholy voice, I'm going to be more subdued right now because of the circumstances that is beyond our control. I like to be jovial. I like to be as positive as possible, but in due time, I will be a little bit jovial because we're going to be we're going to be celebrating the lives of people that are gone too soon. And if you don't know, if you're living under a rock, this has been a very bad week in the world of professional wrestling. This has been a very bad week in the world of entertainment. I mean, we lost a lot of people. And it makes you reflect because, I've been doing this show since 2017, give or take. And that's like 6 years, god damn it. This has been more of a commitment than my relationships, you could say. I've been more committed to this cause than relationships. That's why I have booty calls. But neither here nor there. But you get the point. When we do these type of shows, and Reflectionites, the 12 that rode strong, when we do a couple of spotlights, we like to focus on that one wrestler. We always like to focus on the one person, give that person its just due. But again, circumstances beyond our control, I figured I'd pull a curveball and really talk about both. And you know what? We've seen some matches, but we're going to be going freestyle here. We're going to be talking about our memories, the memories of these professional wrestlers. One I've grown up with. The other one is now, gone too soon. And we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. But welcome to the Pro Wrasslin Reflection Podcast. Welcome to the PWR Spotlight here at the Hami Media Group at podbean.com. And if you don't know me, I am the most glorious man in the IWC, YWC, PWC punditry, the only objective man in this political spectrum, the only objective man in this X-verse. Your friend of mine, the Professor Chabelle Cruz. And I'm not here alone. No. I need somebody to really talk about the memories. I need somebody else to bounce off things that I might have forgot. I might remember one match My partner in crime might remember a different match. So that's why I need somebody to tell me what his memories were about these two individuals. He is the conservative liberal, the liberal conservative, dumb doing idiot song, Dr. freaking Stein, the Iron Stomach one, Canada's greatest export.
Import. They took me.
Okay, either way. Tommy wonder how you doing, my friend. And before you answer that you're fine, I know that. But again, circumstances beyond our control. We had to pull a curveball on this. And for this particular episode, it makes us reflect because of our format. It makes us reflect because of the formula that we are. We are the most nostalgic podcast out there. We always go into time machines to celebrate what we watched for the last 40, 50 years. But of course, the downturn of that, the negative part of that is the people that we've grown up with, the people that we've, grown up with on our TVs. Mortality is a bitch. And you can only go so far. And we lost some people. So what say you, TW? How are you doing, my friend? I didn't want to start on a bummer question.
It's a heavy week, man. And, not to say that one of them's not as sad as the other. The other one at least had a good run, man. It's like, granted, I still think that age is a little too young, too, considering the older I get, the more I realize how far away that isn't. But the other one, a couple days later, was just like, I'm pretty sure I was sitting somewhere and I read it on my phone, and it changed my whole day, man. Like the weird thing is most of the times when I see death notices on the internet, I don't react right away because some of them are bullshit. There's losers out there who thinks it's funny to do a fake death hoax to make people think someone died. And when I saw one about Bray, I feel like I just knew. I was just like, wow. Like not that I saw it coming, but the hard part of it was hours or a day earlier, I read he had just gotten over an illness and was coming back. And then I saw that and I thought, wow. And the one bright side is there were a lot of people who immediately thought the S word, and I'm glad it wasn't that. But then the real way it happened makes it even sadder, man, that's young, man. It's very young. And I thought he had 3 kids, and I seen a picture. Looks like he had 4 or 1 on the way and 3.
I think 3 from a previous marriage, 1 with his current wife, JoJo, something like that. But Reflectionites, again, this is going to be a heavy PWR podcast, so we're going to do our best to celebrate the lives of Windham Rotunda, aka Bray Wyatt. We're going to celebrate the life and career of Terry Funk from the Double Cross Ranch in Amarillo, Texas. And as TW is holding up those WWE collectibles, those action figures, I guess we're going to start with, the elephant in the room, and that is Bray Wyatt. I mean, the age that he passed away, and, conflicting reports that he was battling COVID and all that stuff. And of course, at the time, in 2020 Thrust TW, Bray Wyatt was at a hefty, I believe, 315, 325 pounds. So that compounds if you have COVID and you have heart conditions and all that stuff. So I'm not getting into the conspiracies of,
You should have went with a Husky 315.
Well, he's a Husky. No, he is a Husky 315.
Husky Harris, man. I'm tipping out to Husky Harris.
No. I'll get into the logistics, but I just want to talk about the present of the circumstances, because again, that's one of the reports I heard about the COVID part. And again, I don't want to get conspiratorial because, we have people within our groups, the PWS, the Hami Media Group, they'll talk about, well, did he get vaxxed and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into that. But being 325 and that COVID always has these, complications with heart conditions and stuff like that. It's a very, sketchy thing. So maybe that's what, and that's one of the sketchiest parts of that. He was trying to recover, like you said, and he might have been medically cleared, but gone too soon. So with that being said, let's talk about Bray Wyatt first, because 36 years old, TW. I'm older than him. You're older than him. He is reaching, the peak of his pro wrestling career. He's at the prime of his pro wrestling career. So, you know what? With that being said, Reflectionites, we're going to talk about Bray Wyatt a little bit first because it is, you know, for that age, TW, the legacy, you know, dying so young, it's like, you know, Elvis Presley dying young. It's like Kurt Cobain dying at a young age. You know, let's be truthful here on the PWR podcast. You know, you saw the Twitter trolls. I saw the Twitter trolls. You know, when Bray Wyatt was alive, you know, people were making fun of him. People were making fun of if he was a diva, you know, because of his, you know, creative control, so to speak. But then he passes away, and everybody is, you know, is a fan. Everybody's saying R.I.P. So I'm going to say this right now. The people who were trolling Bray Wyatt during this time, y'all some hypocrites. You know what? I'm not going to say like this, TW, and I'll be truthful. The only criticism I'll give to Bray Wyatt was character related, wrestling character related. I never questioned him as a human being. I never questioned him because, you know, the choices he's made, you know, privately, you know, again, people could talk about his family stuff. You know, he cheated on his wife and to get I don't give a damn about that. I'm just talking, I was always critiquing the character part. And the one positive and one negative at the same time right now, TW, is Bray Wyatt has a vivid imagination. And you could tell that with his career on the main roster with the WWE. You know, the Wyatt family. You can tell being the son of Mike Rotunda, being from a family lineage that includes Blackjack Mulligan, Kendall Windham, Barry Windham. His brother is Bo Dallas, by God. So he comes from a family lineage that understands the art of psychology, that understands, you know what pops in the ring. So I have that. The only criticism I would give him is the vivid imagination that he had for his character. And I'm talking about the Fiend character. I'm not talking about the Wyatt family because the Wyatt family was so perfect. But again, I'll get back to the hypocrites of the IWC and YWC. And you'll know where I'm going with this. With the Fiend and the Firefly Funhouse, the vivid imagination, the only criticism that the professor would give is that he couldn't harness it. He couldn't balance it because, again, evidently, you got to get into the ring. You know what I mean? But with that criticism, that I'll say this, I will defend Bray Wyatt. I will defend the WWE because I will take certain things back. Because you know what? If social media was at its precipice in the 90s, like it is today, TW, we'd have been shitting on The Undertaker. The Undertaker would never have a 30-year career with that gimmick. Even though he changed it a little bit, he tweaked it in the 2000s. You know where I'm going with this. Oh my God, what's with this in the urn? What's with him having a brother king and burning all that stuff? Because then
people do that now in retrospect. Yeah,
that's it's in retrospect. Yeah. So with Bray Wyatt, I want to take back some of my criticism. Again, that's the only criticism I had. He couldn't harness it to do it in the ring. But again, Bray Wyatt, Reflectionites, is probably, and I'll say this, maybe you have a different opinion on this, TW. I think he was the last larger-than-life character that the WWE had in terms for the kids because of the presentation that he had, not only with the Wyatt family, but with the Firefly Funhouse and with the Fiend character, because the kids could wear the mask, the kids could wear the sweaters and all that.
They're everywhere.
Let's say TW.
So, you know, I'm not going to call him a peg warmer because he's not. He moves merchandise. That's why there's so much of it. But that's one of the things you want to talk about, the downside of someone dying, like that part of it. Obviously, the downside's them dying. But forever, if you went into a Target or a Walmart, there was either a, what's they call it, Funhouse version of Bray, looking like Mr. Dress Up, or a
looking like Mr. Rogers, a demented Mr. Rogers.
There was one of those two figures, and not always the same two. There'd be multiple different Brays, multiple different Fiends. As a matter of fact, it's over there, but there's two versions of the Fiends in the Ultimate Editions, and I didn't get the one that came with that belt that he had, right? I got the second one. And I had been recently trying to find the first one without, paying an arm and a leg for it. And then just like when Dale Earnhardt died, just like when the Blue Blazer gimmick had a figure, Owen died literally the night before it hit stores the next day and they recalled it. I had one. I got it at the store. I got 4 of them. But the problem is now people buy it because he died, not because they wanted it. So then you have people who wanted it who now can't get it unless they want to pay ridiculous prices. That thing was like $30 forever, which is what it was at retail. It's $60, $70, $80 now. So I'll wait because it'll come back down. It's just the poachers or whatever. But the good thing about Bray, one way or the other, we're talking about him. Whether I wasn't a big Wyatt family guy, that's not my wheelhouse. My buddy Dennis in LA is absolutely crushed right now. Like that dude, he made me sad with him because of how he reacted. Because I was like, hey man, did you hear the news? And he found out waiting for me to respond to his and then he found out, and him and Aleister Black, those are his dudes, right? Or whatever that
Malachi
Black now. But the thing is, I know who he is. It wasn't my cup of tea. You know who he is. Wasn't necessarily your cup of tea, everything he did. People who, you're right, people know who he is, even if they're not watching wrestling, because it was such a different thing. It was different. In a world where there's a lot of cookie cutter shit going on, and I'm talking about both A and B companies, there's a lot of people that are a lot alike on both rosters and each other's. Like there's guys on this roster that looks like that guy's roster and vice versa. He was different. And again, some of it was out there, but one thing that's undeniable, man, and I'm almost talking from the jump, is when that dude came out, that entire arena lit up. It lit up immediately. People sang that song, like the whole world, all that. And you hit the nail on the head, man. Kids were either afraid of him or all in on him. Adults were happy that their kid had someone that they were all in on. And then there are adults that are all in on him. And he had it. There's no doubt about it. Bray Wyatt, Windham Rotunda, Fiend, the Husky Harris. And I'll say this about him. When they were doing that NXT, I think he was first run NXT, the first coaches and
he was on the second season of the NXT, the Vince McMahon.
Okay, he was
NXT.
Second season.
Yeah.
He was the one who like in hindsight I would say had the most confidence. But when I was watching it, he was the cockiest one. Like that dude was going for it. There was no doubt in his mind. Can't remember, was Jericho his mentor?
I don't remember the mentor part.
But either way, he was in it to win it. And I don't even know how real that was or whatever, as far as like, was it cutthroat and certain guys were making it and certain guys weren't. But he stood out among all of them. And in a way where I looked at him and thought, he didn't look like the guy. He didn't look like a guy that would be that cocky, but he was. And he went on for the last 10 years to prove why he believed in himself. He did well. It sucks his last match, I believe, was that Pitch Black Mountain Dew match. And you immediately think of that match and you think of that damn, I feel bad for it. I think it's the night I stopped really. I don't know that I ever really was a Seth Rollins fan, but I think that match he had with Seth with them chairs all piled up.
Oh, Hell in the Cell in 20.
When it was all red, the light was red. Those two matches are like two of the most piled on matches ever. And I don't even think the Pitch Black match was bad at all. It felt like a regular match. If anything, I was upset LA Knight lost, but it was just lighting. Who cares? It wasn't like they were doing, tuxedo match.
But that's an example of the professor's criticism. Well, number one is the fickleness of the fans, but that is the criticism that I had of Bray Wyatt. And I said, the imagination is very vivid.
Yeah, right. His concepts didn't come across good in wrestling matches.
Yeah, it just doesn't balance. It just doesn't balance it out. But the fickleness of fans, like you said, with the Hell in a Cell in 2019, that was all red. The Pitch Black match with LA Knight, then the fans just rammed on it, because then it's almost like you're blaming Bray Wyatt's imagination. You're blaming Bray Wyatt's creativity.
You love everything else he did, and then you shit on the one time you don't like it.
And again, TW, it's like what you said with his Husky Harris, being part of the legacy, being part of the lineage of the Rotunda, when the family, Blackjack Mulligan, he was so wrestling ready because he understood the psychology of it. He understood the business end of it. Now, could TW, let me ask you this. If he just stayed as Husky Harris, do you think he could main event WrestleMania? I don't think so.
No.
But he would be a serviceable hand with the Husky Harris moniker, the character, persona.
He would have been among the ones released, at least one of the but because it's too generic.
He would have had to venture in the indies and recreate his gimmick or whatever the case may be. But that's why I say he was so wrestling ready, because he understood Husky Harris is serviceable, but it's not something that's gonna catch the masses. It's not gonna catch you. Well, again, that's debatable.
Better
than
Bronson Reed, but
he knew that when he went back, he had to hone in on a character. So let's talk about that, because when he went back to NXT, he like Husky Harris died, and out came from the trenches of, I believe, in the bayous of Louisiana. I forgot where the Wyatt family were from, supposedly, but they never really talk about where you're from. But let's just hypothetically say from the bayous of Louisiana, from the sticks, if you will, Reflectionites, the character of the Wyatt family was born. Bray Wyatt was the cult leader, but he needed some backup, and Eric Rowan and Luke Harper, aka Brody Lee, were the perfect, monsters to protect their cult leader. And TW, with the look of Bray Wyatt, it's Cape Fear. It's, the sociopath and all that stuff. And in terms of professional wrestling, Reflectionites, Bray Wyatt honed in on Waylon Mercy, Dan Spivey's character, which struck. He honed in on the psychological ramifications of Jake the Snake Roberts. He honed in on the psychological manipulations of Raven. He honed in on the, I don't want to say supernatural instincts, but you'll get where I'm going with this, of Kevin Sullivan. He created a hybrid of 3 of the top villains in the wrestling industry, in the professor's humble opinion, to hybrid it into this one gimmick that is the Wyatt family. What's CTW about that assessment, or do you have a different interpretation of the Wyatt family?
I thought Waylon Mercy. And what I was going to say is, he took Waylon Mercy, which everyone shit on with Danny Spivey, didn't last long, and made it work. He did it and made it work. And maybe it worked because he was part of a cult, and that was Danny Spivey being alone it just wasn't enough, right? And also, we say it a million times. You take the worst gimmick, if you go out there and accept it and make the best of it, it's going to lead to better things. Steve Austin being the perfect example of someone saddled with a horrible gimmick, and he let his work and his speech and all that break out of that. And we don't even talk about the remaster. We don't even hold it against him anymore. There's one figure of it. But Bray Wyatt is a phenomenal talker. Phenomenal. Like, whether it be improv, whether riffing back and forth, which I'm sure there's an outline, but the way he worded things, he was a poet. And it was Edgar Allan Poe-ish. It was Vincent Price. It was macabre. That's what I think you would say Kevin Sullivan he stole from. It was evil. But it was intriguing evil, not run and hide behind a building evil.
That's why I said he's a hybrid of like the intellectuals of Jake the Snake, Kevin Sullivan, Raven, and he merged that into that one character for himself. And then plus the look of Waylon Mercy is a perfect trifecta.
The one thing he did that wrapped it all up together for me to legitimize it all. Because he's already taught you into thinking he was a weirdo, right? But you don't really know it for sure until he does the crab soccer walk. Like, that's his Shawn Michaels kip up. When he did
the spider walk, the
spider walk. Well, in school they called it crab soccer. I used to play soccer like that. But once he did that, people were like, "Whoa!" And he looked like triple jointed when he did it. It was a full arc, and like you said, he was a big boy. So him doing that, that's pretty impressive. That's like Drew McIntyre doing the kip up, blows me away every time. That's a big guy doing the kip up, right? And Bray Wyatt did that. It got a response every time. I believe it was The Undertaker. He did it to The Undertaker, sat up, and then he did that, and they were staring at each other upside down. Those are iconic moments, and that was the thing. And that's what I thought you were trying to say earlier, is like, he was great, and then the bell rang. Like, I thought you were saying he couldn't. Oh, no. You meant the concepts didn't work in the matches. But he was a good worker. And when he kissed you and did the finisher, which
the Sister Abigail.
The Sister Abigail was, but is that the Cody Rhodes move or?
It's close to the crossroads. Yeah, it is close to that.
But just he had it all, man. He had it all, and like I was saying to you guys, I think it was you and Ray in the group text. I was like, it's even more tragic for how the last 2 years went. The dude got released, came back, got sick, and then just never really got to come back and put it all together. But he did have that little 6-month run. Mm-hmm. Many people regard his coming. I mean, it's second. It's not second to anybody. It's the next one since Jericho when you did the countdown clock, right? Like the QR codes and all that stuff. It kept people interested. Like people want to know who that was going to be. And when he came out, most of us were like, okay, it's Bray. We all knew it would be. But some people were surprised. Same thing with Cody. When Cody came out of WrestleMania, I was relieved. I wasn't like, I knew it because I never knew it. It all made sense that it would be him, but you didn't know for sure. And then when it was him, I was relieved. But other people were shocked because, get this, some people aren't on the internet. They just watch wrestling on TV and then they go to the show. And the only thing they know about is what they see on their TV and what they, if they call them buy a wrestling magazine or something, that they don't know spoilers. They don't know people that live to ruin shit for people. And
absolutely. I mean,
I could go back to that, but
that's why I said the dirt sheets kind of ruin a lot of things, and the podcast has kind of ruined a lot of things. And again, Reflection, I'm not trying to be a hypocrite here, but you know who you are. I'm not trying to call you out by names, but you know who you are, and you know the people that I'm talking about, because again, and we could use Bray Wyatt.
Suspects.
But we could use Bray Wyatt and the way the IWC treated this, because all the positives that we are talking about of Bray Wyatt, the character, the aura, the presence, people want to ruin it because what? He lost to John Cena at WrestleMania, or he lost to The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Oh, and TW, you know where I'm going with this? The losses overshadow the gimmick. Remember in the 80s, it didn't matter if like Jake the Snake lost to Randy Savage in the 80s. It didn't matter that Jake the Snake lost to like Ricky Steamboat in the 80s, because Jake the Snake is still a larger than life character. The problem, and like I say, Reflection Nights, Bray Wyatt is the last larger than life character, but he needed to win. It just didn't make no sense because he wasn't shielded like those guys were in the 80s because of Mark podcasters. People talk about, oh, he wasn't booked right, or it didn't go this way. It's like you say, TW, everybody should be the world heavyweight champion. Everybody should be in the main event of WrestleMania. No, everybody has a place. And if your stories supersedes the belt, if your stories supersede wins and losses, it shouldn't matter. It should be like, damn, that was a great program between Bray Wyatt and XYZ. What say you, TW, about that?
It's funny because something just popped in my head. We talk a lot about, not just you and I, but other people, about who's the best to never be world champion. I say it's Rick Rude and Razor Ramon. Two people that I don't think any of us have ever brought up, maybe you have, are Jake the Snake and Roddy Piper. And why? Because those two lived a career telling people, I don't need no belt to get over. They didn't need a belt. And then no one ever throws them in the hat for guys that should have been world champion. It's almost like they accept it from them, but I never understood why people jump the ship on someone when they don't win. Like, first of all, if you're going to call yourself a smart mark, which is, by the way, not a badge of honor. Like, wrestlers don't rip on marks. They rip on smarks, for the record, right? Because without marks, they don't feed their families. The smarks are the ones
no money's coming in. I get where you're going with that.
It's the smarks who don't spend a dime, who don't go to shows. All they do is sit behind a keyboard and make fun of wrestling, an armchair book, right? Well, if they're so smart, then why do they not understand the good guy's going to win 90% of the time? So when Bray Wyatt or the Fiend is a heel, he's going to lose to John Cena. He's going to lose to The Undertaker. He by the way, I'm pretty sure he beat John Cena earlier in his career.
And he got the win back, but again, it's semantics. But I know
you not have the patience to wait for that, right? Jericho who I used to think is the best in the world, I like him a little less every day because of what he's become. He's almost a smart now, but he made a good. You know, the Facebook will show you videos, and you got to hit them to watch them. He was talking at one of them like TED Talk looking things for wrestling, and he said, "Listen, if you come up to me and you tell me you don't like what I'm doing right now, but you liked it a month ago, just shut up and let it play out. You don't stand up in the middle of a movie and yell, I don't like it. You wait to the end, and then you talk about the whole story, not just that one part." And so these people losing their minds over a loss, it's like, first of all, it's a work. That's first and foremost. You're supposed to know that because you're a smart mark. You know there's no real winners or losers. It's all part of an ongoing thing. So if he loses, big deal. Look what they're doing with LA Knight right now. I don't think I've seen one person complain about him losing to Austin Theory in that match last week because of how he lost. The Miz made him lose, and it's furthering their storyline. So it doesn't matter that he lost to Austin Theory. He's going to get that title someday. He's just not going to beat Ray for it. He's going to beat Austin Theory or another bad guy for it because he's a babyface now. If he beats Rey Mysterio for it, you're splintering the fans who like both, like Hogan and Warrior. So people need to calm down about losses. Some people are made in losses. Macho Man losing to Warrior in the retirement match made that guy more popular than ever.
Yeah, again, you and I understand the semantics and the reasonings for things. But again, with the Mark podcasters and the smarks, as you say, you know, for Bray Wyatt, he has to, you know, he's suffering because of people's trolling that he lost to John Cena. The second guessing of
and
the booking.
He seemed like the kind of guy who struggled with mental health, and it might have made him second guess. They might have ruined something that he was having brewed.
Or, well, like you say, perpetuate that mental illness or whatever.
Right.
But
That's
again,
what I mean.
that's
They
a legit
sidetracked
reflection.
him
As we're
instead of
not
letting him do his
saying,
thing.
we're not even going that route. We just, you know, again, we're mad at you, Marks. We're not mad, you know, it's all that stuff. The smarts, yes. I'm my apologies. But we're mad at the smarts. But let's celebrate Bray Wyatt and let's go into the ambiance of his character, especially before the Fiend stuff. The Wyatt family was so simplistic. No, I can't say simplistic. It was very thorough because of the imagery that it presented, all in black light, you could say, in the darkness. And Bray is holding the lantern, and then Luke Harper and Eric Rowan are coming, you know, right behind him, and he's about to light the lantern, and he says those two words, "We're here."
Yeah.
And the place goes black. The arena goes black. The cell phone lights come up, and the music is so iconic with that. So TW, what say you about just to get him into the ring? It's almost like, and you know, the Marks. I gotta be happy for them.
Yeah,
they're saying this is awesome before he even locks up and does anything, right? Because of the experience that Bray Wyatt brings, because it actually coincides with the Undertaker. Because what are the two entrances that you really like paid your hard-earned money to see? Reflection Nights. Undertaker's one because you can't beat that. But number two, TW, in my opinion, would have been a Bray Wyatt entrance. What say you about that?
And Bobby Roode, glorious. That was short-lived.
Yeah, that was short-lived, but
it was so. That's the funny thing, right? So I mean, I want to apologize for this. I'm a body guy, right? When I am a fan of someone, it's usually someone that looks like an action figure, right? Like I don't look like that, so I appreciate the dudes that put the work in, and they look like superheroes to me. He looked like a villain, and the fact that those three got over like they did 30 years ago, 20 years ago, they would have been absolutely heels with no chance of being babyface. Maybe not 20, but definitely 30 in the shit. I might have to go back 35 to get to the 80s.
Maybe, yeah.
But like Godwin's ended up being baby faces, and they had that look in the 80s and 70s that you were never ever going to be a baby face, right? So the fact, and they didn't do it by kissing babies and shaking hands and pandering. They just got over, right? And so for me, being a body guy, right? The Lugers, the Sids, the Drew McIntyres, like him now versus him 10 years ago. Drew's far more it, than he was when he was that beanpole when he first came out, right?
Okay.
Bray Wyatt still somehow got me to tap my toe, got me to hum along with that doom, doom, doom. It reminded me of the Doors back, the other stuff. All that stuff, man. It was so, and then he got in the ring and some of the mystique died because he just looked like a dude on vacation in that outfit. But
you're a body guy, like you said. So it is what it is.
The crab soccer walk, the head games, the other dudes getting in there, it all worked, man. And like, I think if I wasn't in my 40s, almost 50-year-old man, if I was younger, I would have been all in on that dude for sure, because of the pomp and circumstance of it all. It was a show. It was, that's a perfect example of, I always wonder, why would someone go to a show when they can stay home and watch it on TV? Well, the answer is, you want to see something live. That would have been one of the things.
Yes, to get the experience.
Like everyone else, coming to the ring, The Miz, nobody gives a shit. Bray Wyatt's entrance, the way, me personally, recently, SummerSlam, the thing I was looking most forward to was LA Knight's reaction from the crowd, but was Cody, how he comes out and the crowd sings that, whoa! And it was every bit as larger than life there as it felt like it would be watching it at home on the TV, right? So I would say Cody might even be the guy that's still larger than life to the kids, but not like this. This is more little boys. Like, little boys want to grow up to be like this. Like they want to be. This is badass, right? And
again, for the kids, this is why I say that Bray Wyatt is probably the last larger than life because of the costume, because of the mystique and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So with the entrance and the cell phone lights going up, and like you said, people humming to the tunes and all that stuff. One of my vivid memories of one of the greatest entrances ever for Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family per se, TW, was WrestleMania 30 against John Cena, because he had a live band entrance for it. And if you go on YouTube, Reflectionites, I know you don't like that, TW, going on YouTube, but it's a crystal clear link from WWE. It's about 4 minutes, but it's a great entrance for Bray. And I'm sure people are actually reliving that entrance from WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans, Louisiana, from the Superdome. But TW, that's one of my vivid memories of Bray Wyatt. And of course, I think it was Eric Rowan hauling the chair like this, just carrying it. And again, everything, and for what 50, 60, 70,000 in the Superdome, TW, to have the live band and the cell phone lights, the visual on TV, like you're talking about, is great. I can only imagine being in the Superdome in front of 50, 60, 70,000 people with the lights. You're taking it all in. You're not looking at the title. You're part of it. Yes, that is one of the most intriguing things about, as I say, Undertaker's number one for the WrestleMania entrance experience. But Bray Wyatt is a close second, maybe 1 and 1/8.
Man, Shawn Michaels in the zip line is pretty good.
No. I'm talking about because
consistency.
It's consistency.
Yeah.
Undertaker and Bray Wyatt are the consistent people that you really like hone in on. Oh, I can't wait to experience it. I can't wait to feel it. I understand Shawn Michaels.
And Shawn Michaels, no one knew that was coming.
John Cena even tried that, but he only saved that for WrestleMania. So it was almost gimmicky that he was trying to upstage his entrances. I'm trying to push back on that.
Triple H too. Yeah.
It's so natural with Undertaker. It's so natural with Bray Wyatt with the entrances. You're like, oh shit, this is what I came to see. So what say TW? Like, do you remember that WrestleMania 30 entrance, or do you remember
I'm trying to think.
Raw
how many
SmackDown?
WrestleManias was that? 7 years ago?
That was WrestleMania 30.
So it wasn't the the cinematic match. It was an actual match.
Yeah, it was an actual match.
Yeah, so I don't remember, but there's another thing I don't remember as well.
What's that?
Which is, I just saw it today, and it was like, wow, I sent it to Travis, and I was like, I have no memories of this. It was Bray and The Rock at WrestleMania
32.
Going at it, and The Rock ripped his stuff off and was ready to go, and he wrestled Eric Rowan. But the tease of the two of them was like, I don't know why I don't remember that at all. That was Hollywood.
Because it was Rock kind of like, again, for 100,000 fans supposedly in Dallas. And then Bray Wyatt, he had no match. The Wyatt family, again, the Fireflies, all that stuff was iconic. It was 3 against 1, and of course Cena was injured, so he came to save the Rock. It became 3 on 2. It was Cena and the Rock against the Wyatt family. But it wasn't. It wasn't a match. It wasn't a match. It was just an attraction. But again, this is where the smarks come in, because they're like, oh my God, Bray looked horrible against the Rock. But they don't. But like you and I understand, that's the rub. There you go. He got the rub. He got the seal of approval by being in a ring with 2 icons like John Cena and The Rock,
and physically.
Right. So with that memory, but that's another iconic moment for Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family. So if you want to talk about it, that you forgot about it, go ahead, TW.
I watched him go back and forth, and The Rock gave him a shine. He healed on the other 2, not Bray. So people don't focus on that. And what do you think's going to happen with 100,000 people in Dallas when there's probably a good chunk of those people who only went because it was WrestleMania was in town? They probably don't follow the product. So the one guy in that ring they knew is The Rock. He's not going to go over on The Rock regardless. But here's the one thing I caught up about it. He's a heel, but that crowd, like, they were behind The Rock, but they were almost going to get behind Bray. Like, they purposely, like, you could feel like they were going to do it. And they're like, he's wrestling The Rock. And this is what I mean about LA Knight and Rey Mysterio. It's going to kill one of them if those are the 2 that fight, like popularity-wise. That's why you whatever. But Rock and Bray, that probably is one of the moments where they decided, we got to make this guy a babyface, right? Like, they could tell the crowd wanted to cheer for him. And Bray didn't come out and say, screw all you Boston fat boys. You know what I mean? Like, he just came out. He was consistent. The message was always the same. It was the Wyatt family. There was no cheap heat. There was no low-hanging fruit heat. They just came out and did it. And those are the people that usually organically get over like that. Not just to say someone ripping on the fans isn't fun, because that is too. I used to do it. I'm not even saying I'm taking a high ground. But he just had it. He had it. And he got to do it with The Rock. Not it, like you in the DMs, but it.
Yeah, right. But now, TW, do you remember this iconic moment within the Wyatt family circle of storylines? Do you remember when Daniel Bryan was kind of testing the waters of his dark side, and Bray was kind of manipulating him, just like I keep saying with the Kevin Sullivan reference, the Raven reference, the Jake the Snake Robber reference, that Daniel Bryan was wearing the sewage
janitor suit,
the janitor's suit, and almost was going to be an honorary Wyatt family member. And then in the cage, Daniel Bryan just woke up. He saw the light. The yes movement was going, and then he did the kick to Bray Wyatt. But that storyline just made all the sense in the world. And the payoff, if you will, Reflectionites, was Daniel Bryan breaking free of that entrapment that Bray Wyatt's manipulation caused him to be in that situation. So, TW, what say you? Again, I'm not trying to like analyze storylines like, oh, this made Bray Wyatt better or worse or whatever the case may be. But we have iconic, just like you said with WrestleMania 32, he's in the ring with The Rock. He's got storylines for days like this. What say TW about that iconic one with Daniel Bryan?
The fact that I remember it in general and don't remember the one with The Rock tells you it's memorable. And he had almost the same deal going with Randy Orton to where they ended up together. And those are 2 very, very memorable programs that he did. And you've talked about Cena. Then he had the Funhouse Firefly match with Cena. He did the stuff with The Undertaker. He did stuff with LA Knight. He did stuff as recently as that. So like, one of the things that I guess the older you get, the more you disbelief how far 2010 is, right? But when you read he had a 10, 12-year run in WWE, you're like, what? How'd that happen? And then we start talking about memories. You're like, he just did so much that stuff got pushed so far back in the rearview mirror. You don't realize it's years now, not weeks and months. And he just had such.
It's the what have you done for me lately syndrome that we get into.
Well, no. I don't even mean that. I mean,
No.
He's
I'm talking about
constantly doing something to make you not even think about the good stuff he'd already done.
But for
And
the
then when you
smart,
look,
But for the smarks, it's what have you done for me
Yeah.
lately? This sucks, and you're done.
because
You should
all of them
leave.
were on cloud nine when they knew he was coming back, and then as soon as he has a match, they shit all over, and it's like,
Right.
come on, man, like. Give it a second, jeez. And I don't even put the pitch black match on him. The fact that Mountain Dew was involved, I think they just chose him to be in that match.
Yeah, let's not talk about the pitchback match. But now, since we talk about the Wyatt family little memories, we got to talk about the second incarnation character that he created. Again, when you get a little time off, if healing, mending injuries, or taking like that TV time off per se, because one of the things. The only detriment of Vince McMahon, and you know this, TW, is like the Wyatt family was so iconic, but then Vince McMahon has this funny, tunnel vision, like, oh, I got to break them up because I think it's more money to have Bray Wyatt against Luke Harper or Bray Wyatt against Eric Rowan. And then he forgets that we celebrate a faction like that. We celebrate like the trios, But Vince McMahon's aneurysms and Alzheimer's and all that kicks in too much. But in 2017-ish, 2018-ish, we get the second incarnation character, so to speak. Again, he was still because before that, even when the Wyatt family broke up Reflection Nights, he was still the Bray Wyatt. He was the solo Bray Wyatt. So I'm not saying it lost its mystique, but it was still there. But he even knew that he had to go so left. He had to go a different direction. And that's where the Fiend came into play. So it's hard to let's say Reflection Nights to even define who the Fiend is, because you get many variations of an answer and they all could be correct, TW. So this is my variation of the Fiend. The Fiend was an alter ego of Bray Wyatt to coincide past aggressions or past experiences, so to speak, because from the Fiend, when he wears the mask, he's protected. He's powerful. He's supernatural to a degree. And when he had his debut as the Fiend against Finn Balor at SummerSlam in Toronto, Canada, he decimated Finn Balor. Finn Balor wasn't the demon. He was just Finn Balor. But what the Fiend did was to create this supernatural gimmick in that he was impervious to pain. It was almost Undertaker-like, but there was a backstory to it, because then on the flip side is the Firefly Funhouse Reflection Nights, and that's where he's wearing the sweaters. He's the psychopathic sociopath who is he thinks he's good, but he knows that there's somebody tussling his sweater, like a bad let's say influence, TW, if you will. But it's almost like the Fiend was a big brother that he couldn't control. But the Fiend was there. Now, again, this is where my criticisms is, TW, about harnessing that, because being so supernatural, the Undertaker was supernatural, but in the 90s, even the good guys could get that punch in on the Undertaker, and he felt it just a little bit. When you punched the Fiend, he didn't sell, and we saw that. I'm not saying it sucked, but that's one of the little bit of the drawbacks. But the Fiend character, was so supernatural and was so strong, then people were bewildered. And I have to talk about this because this is celebrating the life. When he was the Fiend character in Saudi Arabia and the world champion, he lost quickly to Goldberg. But I kind of defended it. I said he has no past issues with Goldberg. He had past issues with, let's say, Daniel Bryan. He had past issues with John Cena. That's where the 2020 Funhouse match really comes in, because he gets psychological with the Fiend and supernatural, that he can get his revenge on people that he feels did him wrong. Goldberg had nothing to do with him because he had no interactions. That's the way I defended it, and I'll still defend it to this day. So what say you about the Fiend character? Because I guess for Vince McMahon, it's more marketing, but it was a great mark. The fucking Fiend World Championship belt was selling for $1,500. I'm not that eccentric to buy a TW, and I know you're a collector. You're not that eccentric to pay $1,500 unless Joe Biden or President Trump was going to give you some cash
Trump
back,
money, or
Trump money. But you was not going to do that out of your hard-earned overtime money. So what say you about the Fiend character?
it was huge. I always thought it was Jason Voorhees. Like, he just looked like somebody that escaped somewhere, and the idea was we're not supposed to believe that's him, but we know it's him. It was, alter ego stuff, man, comic book stuff. That's I told you this before. Coming up, when I came up, the two things wrestlers had in common were comic books and music. They like the same music and the comic books. Now it's Japanime, or how you say it,
anime,
video games. Anime and video games are the common denominator these days. But I dude, it's this. We all have it. It's the struggle with good and evil in us, where we don't, and that's what he was doing in the last run. Was he was trying not to let the Fiend come back out. So it's almost Incredible Hulkish. Like, make me angry, I'll fuck you up. If you don't make me angry, I'll hug you. So it was like he was trying, but you're right. He was nuts. It was Cape Fear. It was. He sees no wrong in what he's doing, but he does. His outward is that he doesn't know. But if you give him the excuse, you've now justified him letting the gimp out. And so it was great. And the problem, what you said earlier, is if he's going to no sell everything, then what happens is, it's like Andre the Giant not ever being body slammed, even though he had been body slammed 100 times. He had been body slammed. So once Hogan body slammed him, that's a done issue. No one ever is going to worry about Andre the Giant being body slammed again. No one would try it. No one would care if you did. So it's not worth the effort. So if nobody gets sold every time they hit him, the one guy that does do it is going to be called Super Cena or Super Hulk or Super whatever, Super Goldberg. And so it kind of puts you in a corner where you're like, well, we didn't let nobody else do it, so we can't. And then, you know what? But if Goldberg comes out and does it quick, then it makes sense because he did it quick. Well, no, selling a punch and selling a spear, or no selling a punch or no selling a spear, is the same thing. And I think they just had to get Goldberg the heck out of Saudi Arabia in a hurry. That's why it was so fast. But
again, like I said, I defended that when people said how stupid that was for Goldberg to beat him that quickly. I said for the Fiend character and all that mind manipulation, he has to have a reason to get revenge on people who did him wrong. That's your angle. So for the Fiend character, the weakness was, if I have no history or backstory with you, I'm almost as let's say human. I'm more human against you than as the Fiend, which could have worked, I think, in my humble opinion, because he had plenty of backstories with other people. And when you don't have a backstory with somebody and then he beats you, now you create the backstory where you can get that revenge. But again, Vince McMahon didn't tap into that kind of storyline per se. So let's put a bow on Bray Wyatt TW. Again, the last character was, the Wyatt Six. And then, of course, there was a lot of, hyperboles, if you will, because was the Wyatt Six going to be like, let's say, Karrion Kross and Scarlett and Bo Dallas as Uncle Howdy and all that? Was the Firefly Funhouse was going to be, born to life, you could say, not puppets, but real people, maybe in those costumes wrestling. So, what could have been? I mean, the one thing you and I agree on, dying at 36, he's already now he's Jim Morrison, he's Kurt Cobain, he's Elvis Presley. You're gone too soon, rap stars who get shot in their 20s, like Notorious B.I.G. or Tupac Shakur. Now you're bigger, but the age is like, oh my God, what a life of what could have been. So what's AETW? Let's put a bow on the career of Windham Rotunda.
Tragic, man. The only solace I have in it is that he had a pretty awesome 36 years. So, it's like, if you're gonna go, when you were talking earlier, one of the things that Triple H said in the tweet was WWE member for life. And I'm sure someone tweeted, you released him, because people are assholes. But the thing that popped in my head when you were talking earlier is, dude, they probably knew this dude since he was 5 years old when IRS brought him on the road for WrestleMania or something. Like, this dude is a family member. Like, Stephanie was Macho Man and Stephanie, the rumors of all that, but people have been around these kids their whole life.
Like The Rock being a kid, hanging out with Andre and Hogan. It's the same thing with Husky Harris hanging out with Ted DiBiase and let's say Macho Man.
Probably close with Ted's brother or kids, they probably feel like cousins. Cody and Cody being around these guys, he's got to have been around those guys. They grew up in the business, man. So it's like it's a full 36 years, but it could have been so much more. Like you said, like imagine what else he had coming, especially he had all that time off from the illness. He probably had tons of ideas that he was working on just to stay awake, and not be bored, laid out. And he had something to prove coming back from that pitch black match that everybody thought was a failure. Which again, I didn't think it was that bad. It was a wrestling match in the dark that we could see. But yeah, it's tragic, man. But like I said, I take solace in knowing. The other thing I take solace in, you don't see this very often. I wanted to say this earlier when you said the hypocrites who are rest in peace, I'd rather see that from a hater than see somebody say, fuck that guy. Because then I got nothing to say to that guy. If you can't respect the dead, I don't care who it is. I don't hate anybody. There's people I don't like. And when they die, I'm not going to celebrate it. I'm gonna feel bad for their family and friends. I'm going to feel bad for them because they never had a chance to redeem.
Because you're
not
human.
Very often someone dies, and it's universal how loved that guy is. They just had a show in Wembley. You might have heard about it. 81,000 people. Most people ever to pay to go to a wrestling show, but not the most, I have to say this, not the most money made at a wrestling show. But they did a thing for him. That arena lit up there with fireflies. And the House of Black, I'm not a big Brody King guy, but I'm going to learn to be one because I love what those three guys are doing. It's obvious they pay homage to that guy even before he died. It's very, very respectful. I love it. And this dude, if I do see someone say a bad word about Bray Wyatt / Windham Rotunda, it's going to tell me a whole lot more about them than it does about him, because it has been nonstop, universal praise for this man. And you can see the hurt in people that had truly lost somebody. We lost somebody from our TV, and it ain't the same, but I keep telling my buddy this. You know what? When you ever feel like Bray Wyatt, put on the fucking Peacock and watch him. It's not the same for them. These guys sat with him in catering. They sat with him. His family obviously is even more of a loss. But when you see the hurt on the faces of people that worked with him, and all you see on the internet, like when I saw The Rock tweeted that out, I'm like, oh, that's nice of him. And then I see the clip of them doing. I'm like, what the shit? I didn't even know that happened. And so that's pretty awesome, man. And it's good to see. It's very sad. Doesn't make it any less sad. But it makes you feel good that he was loved, and you hope he knew that.
He touched so many.
Yes.
In the short span of his life of 36 years. So rest in heaven to Windham Rotunda, a.k.a. Bray Wyatt. But we don't stop there, TW. We have to pay our respects on a guy who lived a natural life, a guy who lived it his own way by his own rules, and he was middle-aged and crazy, Reflectionites. He was from the Double Cross Ranch in Amarillo, Texas, Terry Funk. And TW, with Terry Funk being born in June of 1944 and dying, a couple of days ago, he lived a natural life of 79. And I know, you're the gatekeeper of the listings like this, but it is a natural life. So in this, because Cody Rhodes on SmackDown really talked about it, but we're going to hone in on it a little bit more. But Cody Rhodes, Dusty Rhodes and Terry Funk, one of the most natural rivalries in the history of professional wrestling. They did it in Florida. They did it in the NWA. They did it in the Indies. But Terry Funk had a 50-year wrestling career that started in 1965 when he worked in his father's promotion in Texas, TW. When you go from 1965 to 2015 or 2016, 2017, my God, the wear and tear that it took on your body, first and foremost.
Plus what he did, which was above and beyond what a wrestler does.
Absolutely. It's just...
How old was he? 79?
79.
Then his career was almost 60 years, because you just said he was born in 44 and started in 65. That means he's 21. That's a 28-year or 58-year career.
Give or take, but you
obviously didn't wrestle the last couple of years, right? You're right.
But in that 50, term, 55. 50 to 55. But TW, what say you about Terry Funk? The longevity that he did, he put a lot of miles on his body. So I want you to give that that wrestler perspective. I mean, you did your 10-year career. You did your 10-year career, but he did it for 50 years.
You're not. First of all, it's not over, and it's going on 30. Second of all,
I knew I was gonna get you with that one. So go ahead.
11 solid, and then another 4 after that. So you can even give me 15, but 10. Anyhow,
all right, I'll give you 11.
Terry Funk did this thing. We watched a few matches because we were preparing to do just Terry, and I watched them, and there's not a lot to say about the matches themselves. It was cool. One of them was him versus Bruiser Brody. That was cool to see it set up Funks versus Hanson and Brody. But Terry Funk did something that I didn't know he did always. I know he did it in WWE. Jimmy Jack Funk kind of did it too when he wasn't really a Funk, but they made him a Funk. He did this little, when he was ready to lock up with someone, it was like this little engine that could shimmy, right? And he did that from day one to the last day he wrestled, and he did that. And what that is, he's a little kid in a grown-up body. He's the opposite of the shredded wheat. He ate the regular shredded wheat without the frosting on it and went from a kid to an adult. But he never lost the lust for life. Even when he made movies, I mean, he's in Roadhouse, damn it. That's a cult hit. One of my favorites ever, with my dude, Patrick Swayze, the coolest man to ever live. He did Over the Top with Stallone. I'm sure he did other stuff too. But he always came back to wrestling. He had no interest in being a Hollywood star. He just wanted to pay Dave for doing it every now and again. But he always wrestled. I'm hoping he didn't wrestle in the end because he had to. I don't think he did because I think they had a ranch that they made money working on the ranch. But this guy was just a kid.
I don't think money. I don't think money was an issue with TW.
Right. It was passion.
With Terry. It was just the passion and the promoters. I think if we're gonna be, I'm gonna be a little bit like, how I'm the most objective man, but I also think when you get to the 2000, and I think it started to me in ECW in 1997. But the older that Terry got, and this is just me, and maybe you might disagree, or you could actually pull me away from this mindset. But if Paul Heyman's gonna not manipulate you, but if he pays you enough money to exploit you, but he's getting older, and what else can he offer in the business? Same thing with Vince, same thing with WCW, the same thing with all the indie promotions in the 2000s. Yes, he's a name. Yes, he's an attraction. But I didn't want my childhood memory to be, I guess, tarnished. Maybe I'm selfish, TW, but please pull me away from that thinking. I didn't want to see him hurt himself in the ring as older he got.
Right, because you're a compassionate human being. That's why. But I'll tell you what they got. And I know this from working on shows with Honky Tonk Man. And I know this from working on shows with other guys. He's the only one I'm fine with naming because he was not a nice guy, right? He wasn't shitty to the boys, but all he was negative. So I have no problem pointing him out as the anti-Terry Funk. When you book Terry Funk, for one, I bet you he didn't fleece you for $1,500 trans in a hotel with a per diem. He probably came in reasonable. But even more so than coming in reasonable, you got way more for your buck with Terry Funk than you got with Honky Tonk Man. Honky Tonk Man would not bump. If he did bump, it would be the very last thing he did because he was putting you over, and that was it. The one bump was the finish. And even then, he might even just got counted out or disqualified instead of losing to you. Terry Funk, win, lose, or draw, gave you 110%. And I will say this, Terry Funk was fun when he was in his 30s and 40s. He was infectious when he was doing Chainsaw. I remember being mad that he wore the pantyhose and was called Chainsaw Charlie. But it dawned on me a little bit later, they never even hid the fact that he was Terry Funk. Not once. That tells me that's something he wanted to do. He made this character over the top, crazy, grandpa, whatever. Even if he didn't, that's how it came across to me. And one thing that all of that got him was a friendship with Cactus Jack that went everywhere. These guys would kill each other and just go back and hang out like it never happened because they trusted each other and they loved it. And so, yes, I wouldn't want to see an old man fall and get hurt. Mae Young did that for me. However, Mae Young loved it. And you know what? They're both gone now. But it wasn't because they were in a wrestling match when it happened. They still got to die of old age, right?
Right.
So I wouldn't look at it like they were being exploited because nobody made them say yeah, and clearly he said yes to everyone. So you can't put it on Paulie or Vince or whoever. He did it because he wanted to, and he did it well. He didn't come across like, remember when Cena fought Austin and he looked rusty as shit? Terry never looked rusty. And this is another thing. I saw this. I'm sure you know what Chrysler is, from even in New Jersey, the big three, Ford, Chrysler, GM. They interviewed this 80-year-old woman. She was emptying waste baskets in the offices of the thing. She had been there for 30-something years. And they're like, hey, this is the news interviewing her. Hey, you can retire any day now with a full pension. What are you still doing here? She goes, because I know what comes after. I know what comes after retirement. She didn't even have to say the word. I hope you know what she meant. I know what she meant right away. Death. That's what comes after retirement. So I think he lived for it.
Yeah, it motivated him to just keep doing what he loved to do.
If he died in the ring, he died doing what he loved to do. There was no harm. But one thing I do want to say after this long-winded one, I often point out to you that when I saw the movie The Wrestler, I'm like, that guy doesn't exist, because they make it out like he's Ric Flair or Hogan, who, if they wanted to wrestle again, someone would book him, right? And then along came Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan to prove me wrong, right? They just begging someone, they got to hold their own shows. Terry Funk never, ever came across that way to me. He never came across as someone that was working in the meat market at the grocery store and just living in a trailer park, slumming it, and needed money. He came across as someone who was there because he wanted to be.
And one of the main things, TW, about Terry Funk's legacy is not only the passion that he had for the business, like you just eloquently said, but he understood that the business needed to evolve. The business needed to change. The business needed to grow. So how do you define that, Reflectionites? For Terry Funk, he was involved in certain, not only boom periods, but he understood like the evolution of wrestling because he did it himself. Like in the NWA days, when he was one of the first brother heavyweight champions, along with his brother, Dory Funk Jr., he was technically sound, but a little bit crazy. But he kind of he didn't go full-fledged hardcore. Right. But then with but then in the 80s and then the ECWs, and then the term hardcore became, it was more defined.
Darling.
It was a darling word, you could say. But Terry Funk even morphed himself, put a little beard on, a little goatee, little beard. He went full cowboy-ish. And then you can remember the great matches that he had in the 80s, like the empty arena feud that he had with Jerry the King Lawler. You can remember him beating the shit out of the pedophile ring announcer Mel Phillips on WWE Superstars. You can remember him making an entire organization, a revolution in Extreme Championship Wrestling means something, because he did things with Tommy Dreamer. He did things with Raven. He did things with Steve Corino. Not Steve Corino, Stevie Richards. He did things with Primetime Brian Lee. The list goes on and on. You talked about Chainsaw Charlie. He elevated Mick Foley to a status that Mick Foley looks at him like a father figure. He did things for himself, from being technically sound to a degree in his 30s, to being middle-aged and crazy in his 40s and 50s, to being revered as a hardcore icon even in his 60s and 70s. So what say you, TW, about his passion for the business, his love for the business, but his smarts for the business?
You just said it. He's people talk about how Jericho reinvents himself and Undertaker changed some things up. He's got a different look for almost every decade, but you still remember Terry Funk. You don't even dissect it and say different. Like what I was going to say to you earlier, the match with Bruiser, he didn't have facial hair. And every time I saw Terry and Dory Funk, which I didn't see a lot of Dory Funk till they brought him in at the very end with Terry, I'm like, that's not his dad. Like Dory looked so much older than Terry. But when I saw him in that match with no facial hair, holy hell, they look alike. I wonder if he grew that goatee out to not look like his brother Dory, right? And one thing he had going for him, he looked like he was going bald in 77 and had the same.
Wait, you talking about Dory or you talking about Terry?
Terry.
Oh, okay.
Dory was bald.
Yeah.
Terry looked like he was going bald in 1977 and all the way up until 2000. 17, he still had the exact same hair. It might have been a little thinner, but the hairline was still the same, and he still had the Jerry curl going in the back, whatever. But he and me. There's two things that I talk about to this day that I learned from him as a heel in WWF is Double Cross Ranch. I don't know why it is. My entire life since that year I saw him, I reference Double Cross Ranch if ever a ranch comes up in a conversation. I'm like, oh, the Double Cross? Like that. The second thing is branding people. I didn't know what the fuck that was until Terry Funk. But that dude had that branding iron, and that thing kind of went with him through all the stages, even if it was a shout out to nostalgia if he brought it back up, because he was going to hit Mick Foley with the brand. He lit it on fire. And it just, he was awesome, man. He was infectious. He was a bad guy that you loved to like or to hate. And so, and the best thing about him, that empty arena match with Jerry Lawler, he's such a shit talker. Never dawned on me. And go back and watch it. When he's talking to Lance Russell before he thinks Jerry Lawler's going to show up, he sounds like Bobby Heenan. Everything he's saying sounds like Bobby. He was funny. And then he turned into this big chicken, a weasel. And it's almost a pity that Bobby Heenan was never with Terry Funk. It was Jimmy Hart with Terry Funk, right?
In WWF, yes, he was.
Yeah, they would have been great together. They would have been hilarious. But yeah, but Jimmy Hart had his place here. You know what it is? Jimmy didn't really talk for the guys like Bobby did, because those guys were able to talk for themselves, and Jimmy talked for the ones that couldn't. But Terry Funk had it, man. And he's second generation at the very least. Who knows what Dory Funk?
Third generation, because Dory Funk Sr., Dory Funk Jr., then Terry Funk. You could say
they're brothers.
No, but you know what I mean.
I meant he's the son of a wrestler. Yeah. I don't think he has any kids that wrestle, but he might have had a grandfather to wrestle. Him and his brother both.
I think mostly he has daughters, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah, I think they're cute too, I think.
Yeah, so maybe one of the daughters will take the mantle and maybe hone a wrestling career. You know, who never?
It would have to be a grandkid by this point, dude. The daughter's in her 40s, dude.
No, I'm just saying, you never know. I'm just if one of the daughter's kids could.
DDP started at 38.
Yeah, you never know. So let's talk about certain memories about Terry Funk. And again, you and I did a PWR Greatest Rivalry, so I at least have to start there. We did Terry Funk and Ric Flair. And I'll say this, and I'll keep saying this to every Reflection night, that the 1989 NWA presentation of Terry Funk, when I don't want to say betray, but he just got crazy when Ric Flair kind of disrespected him when he asked for a world championship match and then put him and pile driving him through the table. That culminated to Great American Bash. That culminated to Halloween Havoc in the Thunderdome. That culminated to the I Quit match in Clash of the Champions. That was pure par excellence Terry Funk at his best. Because again, on WCW Saturday Night, you even talked about the chicken shit promos that he talked about. He called Ric Flair the yellow dog coward and all this stuff. But what say you, TW, about? We did a show about that, but that just showed you the peak of Terry Funk, because again, you know, he came off of Over the Top. He came off of Roadhouse, like you said, but he just loved the business. So we did not know where Terry Funk's wrestling career was going to go, because again, at that point, we found out that Jim Herd didn't like Terry Funk because he was too old in Jim Herd's eyes. So he wanted him to like gloss away and fade away into the sunset and become the next Jesse the Body Ventura. But Terry Funk said, "Fuck you, Jim. I'm no Jesse Ventura. And he was a decent commentator, but his passion was in the ring no matter what. And it
wasn't that night Slamboree and he was inducted into the Hall of Fame for a WCW Hall of Fame or something? Or was it everyone else?
In the 90s? I don't.
That 89 match that he was in a suit. Because it was
no. He was a judge. He was a judge in the title match for Ricky Steamboat and Flair.
But the whole night he would take like subtle shots at Rick in the ring when they were talking. But the whole night he was down the middle. He was like, and they put him out there like he was retired, and that's why, you know, whatever. And then when he asked Ric Flair for the title shot, it was kind of a shock, like, huh? Like he was retired, and then Flair going, yeah, whatever, old man, you know, whatever. It was a master stroke of genius, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was there because Vince sent him out to pasture because he said he was too old, right? And now he ends up in movies and then goes and does that because they'll use him. But it was some of the best stuff, man. I can close my eyes, shut my mouth, and I can hear him say, "I quit" to Ric Flair. Yeah, I quit after teasing it. So basically what he did was, you said it was his par excellence. It was the same stuff he did with Lawler in Memphis. He had a formula, and he milked it. And by the time he does it with Flair, he's got it down. He knows what worked, what didn't work in Memphis. And it just, I love when you say stuff that started in June and ends in January. It's like, that's a beautiful thing. This fast food wrestling we have nowadays, where feuds start on Monday and they're over in 3 Mondays. It's like, on to the next guy. That's why they all wrestle each other 1,000 times. Back then, there might have been the only 3 matches those 3 had that entire year, other than
TV.
a tag match.
Yeah. Other than house shows, but on TV, that was the 3 matches you could say. But I get where you're going with that, because it told a story and it projected to it. You save it. You save it for the big moments. And that's one of the beauties of Terry Funk. I would say this, TW, about Terry Funk, because, again, the image that you talked about, the branding iron and the cowboy hat and the tassels and all that, and the chaps, but, he's not Village People.
You're probably wearing chaps right now. You probably pulled your online chaps.
If I'm wearing chaps, I'm wearing Terry Funk chaps, not Village People chaps, but that's neither here nor there. But in the terms of Terry Funk, like you said, that he understood the positives and the negatives of what works and what doesn't work. So when you get into the 90s, TW, like the value of Terry Funk, he even knew that, I don't know if I have value in WCW. I don't know if I have value in WWF in the early 90s to mid 90s. But when ECW came to pasture, when ECW came to existence, Paulie, Eddie Gilbert, Todd Gordon, whatever the case may be, they knew that Terry Funk still offered something. And those matches that Terry, you said you didn't see Terry and Dory only in WWF, but Terry and Dory Funk Jr. had a war in ECW against the Public Enemy. And there's an infamous memory with the Funks. There's an infamous memory with Terry Funk in ECW. I'm sorry, because that was a blood feud between the Funk Brothers and Public Enemy. They tore
all
the house down. Shut up with that, please. Don't do that. Don't do that. Not now.
I had to do it once. They're having that match right now in heaven. There you go.
Yes, they are. And Bob Barker is calling it right now. He has the microphone. Rest in peace to Bob Barker. But there's an infamous moment where Terry Funk and Cactus Jack are in an ECW ring. And the ECW arena, after a couple of beers, TW, I don't know who started it, but one of the motherfuckers threw a chair in the ring. It caught Terry Funk in the face. It caught Mick Foley in the legs. And everybody, 200 to 500 people, are starting to throw chairs in the ring and bury the Public Enemy inside in the middle of the ring, while Terry Funk and Mick Foley are trying to duck and dodge these chairs. And the ring announcer had to say, "Stop throwing the chairs, stop," because you're committing committing a crime right there. It's assault right there. But that's an iconic moment in ECW. But what I wanted to say, because of
those people killed those people.
Well, Mick Foley's not, but But I will say this. I kind of veered to the left of my tangent, but what I wanted to say is, Terry Funk knew that not to say he had nothing to offer WWF or the big leagues, if you will, but he knew he had to offer something for the next generation of superstars.
Forward,
So he's paying it forward, and ECW was the perfect platform, the perfect vehicle, because he represented the tradition of the 70s and the 80s. And he saw someone like Dreamer. He saw somebody, and again, he gave the rub to Cactus Jack, who didn't get it in WCW per se. He needed somebody with the star power of Terry Funk to put him over. Raven needed somebody with the star power of Terry Funk to put him over. Sandman needed somebody with the star power of Terry Funk to put him over. So what say you about Terry Funk knowing his value is not in the big leagues, but in this renegade promotion?
He helped make those people stars, and a couple of them guys had some tarnish to get off of them because of how they were used in the other two promotions, as Scotty Flamingo and Johnny Polo. Then he became Raven, and now he's iconic, right? Like, he survived a couple gimmicks that would have made him Duke the Dumpster Drosies of the world, like people we remember, but not a lot of. And he did that, and I wonder if that's why he was Chainsaw Charlie, is because Chainsaw Charlie and Cactus Jack is the star. Cactus Jack and Terry Funk's the star. You know what I mean? So I always wonder if that's why he was Chainsaw Charlie with the stupid mask. The people that knew, and the ones that didn't, oh, Chainsaw Charlie, whoever this guy is, right? So it adds to the what I already thought. This guy wrestled as late as he did in his life because he loved it, and he did that because long after he's gone, he wants the business to still be here. And that's a good thing, because I can tell you right now, yes, I don't want my job to ever go out of business like the last one did. That still kind of stings a little bit. But when I'm gone, why the hell do I care, right? But this dude wanted to lay the foundation for the future that didn't include him by being in it in the now and helping create those people. And it's admirable.
Right. So, TW, before we close on this PWR spotlight, or the PW remembers Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk, let's put a bow on Terry Funk, because, you know, if you want to talk about some of the matches that caught your eye, or you want to put a bow on the matches that you saw, what did you see out of Terry Funk in terms of his athleticism, in terms of his character, in terms of where you saw the way he presented himself in that ring?
You know, it's funny. I wasn't even going to talk about this, but I have to now that you worded it like you set it up. Early Terry Funk versus Bruiser Brody, they both, to me, looked like guys that probably played sports in high school, probably worked on a machine line somewhere.
Funk played amateur college football, or
right? No. I'm talking about their bodies. Their bodies. Oh, okay. They looked like they, you know, they had muscles from their life, not from the gym, right? And then you Scooby-Doo to the match against Jerry Lawler in the arena, and it's like, I went quickly from going, yeah, those guys are natural, to going, Terry went on a cycle. He definitely went on a cycle because he was smart enough to know that's where the business was going, to become the land of the giants. But he always still had, like, he had I wouldn't say athletic body, but he had like what the people call today a dad bod without the belly. He had that. Okay. And then he went on that little run, and he messed me up a little bit because he went from 2 knee pads to 1 knee pad. But he was a brawler. Did that sweet pile driver. His pile driver wasn't pretty, but it looked like it fucking hurt. So it was again something you feared.
The pile driver he did was not like the Paul Orndorff one where he jumped. Down. It was
a sit down.
He kind of. I call it the recliner pile driver because he just like.
Paul Orndorff is called the jumping pile driver, and Terry Funk's Jerry Lawler did the standing pose one, but MJF does a thing where he does like a slingshot version of the sit down pile driver. But that's the one where you just take the guy. You don't even hold the guy up. You just got him bent over like you just met him on DMs. To me, he falls back.
Terry Funk's pile driver looks the safest out of all of them.
It's absolutely the safest, but it looks the most brutal. From if you think they're really hitting their head, because it's matter of fact. I mean, I get Paul Orndorff probably looks the worst, but I mean, like, it looks like snub nose, like the DDT. Right?
I get you.
It almost looks like a DDT, but between the legs instead of the arm and the love handle.
I totally get you.
He punched a lot. I don't even know if he clotheslined a lot. It was just a scrapper, but he could go with anybody. Like one of the matches with Flair, wasn't it 60 minutes, or at least? It
was 30 minutes at the bash. He fought like almost 30 minutes against Flair,
and he weren't bored. It wasn't 30 minutes of rest holds. It was a win. He did he was hardcore before it was a thing, like you said, before that word was coined, because him and Bruiser Brody were killing each other. Him and Cactus Jack in the ECW match, stabbing each other in the stomachs and the foreheads with stuff. Pulled the knife on Jerry Lawler, I think it was, and then stabbed his own eye. That was a beautiful spot, by the way. That's where he went from badass to get the doctor. He turned it to the weasel. It was beautiful, man. He did the perfect style for his heel character. And then when he became a babyface, he was just reckless abandonment. He just threw his body. He's like RVD without the pretty stuff, but he just landed however he landed. He bumped you.
He knew in his 40s that he had to change his approach in the ring, and in his 40s he did the moonsaults. He didn't do it in his 30s. He was more. He was a like you said, he was a brawler, a bruiser, and refined in the technical realms. But in his 40s, he just said, I go balls to the wall. I'm going to give you everything I got. And then he just added the moonsault into his repertoire. I just wanted to give you that kind of.
I've never, to this day, pulled off a successful moonsault, and starting in my 20s. So at 20, I was trying to do moonsaults. Al Snow would just laugh at me and go, tuck your chin. Because every time I went to go, I would look. Don't look. Wherever you look, your head goes. And Rico would do them all day. I never, ever did one. I couldn't do it. I was too afraid. But Terry Funk did it in his 40s.
Yeah, and with that being said, Reflection Nights, I think there's nothing left to say except rest in heaven to Windham Rotunda, aka Bray Wyatt. Rest in heaven to Terry Funk from the Double Cross Ranch in Amarillo, Texas. And TW, before we close out properly,
rest in peace to Bob Barker.
And rest in peace to Bob Barker.
Family, damn it.
And rest in peace to the original Harley Quinn voice. I forget her name, Ann Sorkin. But if you remember TW, the Batman animated series of the 90s, she did that voice of Harley Quinn back then. So rest in peace to her. So before we give out those socials so we can get out of here, TW wanted to open some new gifts that he got, or some new crates. So hopefully it's maybe Terry Funk or maybe Bray Wyatt induced.
No, but this, we talked about him.
The Undertaker and the Gobbledygooker.
And Hector Guerrero. I'm not opening this thing up, but it's the Ultimates. And inside of here are packages that look like...
Wait, you got the Gobbledygooker in your collection?
Yeah, I only bought it because of that. This is one that I'm not married to, if you will, that one day. But it has the pop-up stage, the egg, and you can put them in it to come out of the egg.
You got that on a clearance, did you?
No, this just came out, man. I'm not going to tell you what this costs.
If that costs too much, I don't know. I'm just saying, is that a collector's item?
Yes,
everybody rails on it.
It's exclusive to Amazon. So in about 3 months from now, it'll be worth double what I paid for it.
Gotcha. So if you paid $150 for that, hopefully it'll be worth $300.
I didn't pay no $150. I ain't that dumb. Okay. But I got this too. This one.
I see Hogan, I see The Rock, I see Austin, and is that The Undertaker? Or is that Becky Lynch? Oh.
But see this right here?
Mm-hmm.
They recalled these because it didn't say then, now, forever together. They recalled it to change the box, and now they're back out with that. I got this before the recall. That means that's going to be worth something. But this is what Ray loves.
Oh, Lord.
I am going to open it up. I'm going to try to be quick because I think we went longer than you thought, and you got a couple dudes waiting on you. So, ready?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hide the card.
I think I remember
I know one person that's in this. God rest his soul. I'm hoping the shirt is him. Let's see.
All right.
I already like this.
It is a shirt.
Is this pink or is it orange? Oh, it's red. I like the shirt. This is going in the I will wear it pile.
Bryan Danielson red shirt. That's a good
American
one. I like that one.
Second shirt.
Gobbledygooker. No, it's not.
I like this guy. Think he made the wrong decision what company he went to, but
Jay White, the Switchblade. Nice shirt.
Adam Cole.
No, that's Jay White.
I thought the word said Adam Cole. I swear, but I read that. All right, I like both shirts. I'd wear them both. The patch, the stinger. I'm gonna have to get a denim jacket and start putting these patches on. Oh, I feel like they're socks. The socks. Thoroughly disappointed. I'm happy for him being in this box, but
who is that?
Brian Pillman.
Oh, okay.
I was hoping
that doesn't even look like Brian Pillman.
I know.
Jesus Christ. Who is drawing these people?
An ad for Matt Cardona's figures.
I saw Danhausen on that picture, but neither here nor there. Skinner.
Good. This is the guy I was hoping definitely wasn't the shirt. I just talked about him.
Brody King.
Brody King. And I don't remember who the other people were in here. Let's see who the 8x10 is of. Sometimes there's two. I got two one time, but thank goodness this wasn't the shirt.
Butterbean.
It's me. So that's it. This is lukewarm. I'm happy that the picture was of the one I didn't care who was in it. One day I'm going to sell all these pictures in a lot. They're all certified.
I wish you would have got a Butterbean shirt just to have fun with, just to see your face.
That would have been in the lot. Yes. And I got all these pins. I think I'm going to get a board and put the pins on the board.
Put it on your refrigerator.
I'm okay with Sting. I always hope that this is the one, like the Pillman or the Sting. But I got the orange and blue Surfer Sting already from the AEW show, and I have the red, white, and blue Sting coming in the mail, along with the CM Punk one, because I'm all in on CM Punk. I'm hoping his shirt comes one time.
Cool.
I like Skinner. He was also doing. I ain't ever going to wear these socks.
Okay. So with that being said, TW's lukewarm pro wrestling crate unboxing, the reveal. I guess it's a C. And with that being said, we close on this special PWR episode as the PWR podcast remembers the life and career of Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk here at the Hami Media Group at podbean.com. So before we get out here, TW, give out those socials, please.
All righty. I wasn't prepared. All right. So the PWC Network at podbean.com, as we can find the Pro Wrestling Coalition, Hami Media Group at podbean.com, as well as channelattitude.com. Our Twitter or X is at PW Reflection. Travis, I mentioned him, so he's at Nuts and Volts PW, VOELTZ PW. Big Ray, you can find him every Wednesday on the NXT. It's Next Level. This past week he was without April, I believe. And then you can find him on every single social media platform there is at Big Ray Hernandez. You can find me on X at TommyWonder19 and at The Tommy Wonder. You can also find me on Snapchat at Number Wonder. You can find me on Instagram at TommyWonder19 and TikTok at The Tommy Wonder. Facebook.com/Tommy Wonder. And also, you can find Big Vito and Noel at BigVitoBrand.Wixsite.com, Patreon.com/The Big Vito Brand, and you can watch the early release of Reflection videos at Twitch.tv/The Big Vito Brand.
And you can find me on my Xer at PWSPRF, that's PWSProf. And if this gets uploaded by 8-Track Round, this will be available on the PWS networks on the YouTubes. Follow my brothers in arms, Billy Ray Valentine, the man of the Wednesday locker room at Obi-Wan You Know Me, and of course the king of the reactions, 8-Track Brown at the number 8, TRAC Brown. So again, this was a special edition PWR podcast because of the circumstances beyond our control. So next week, hopefully we'll go back to episodic, we'll go back to rivalries, we'll go back to spotlights, we'll go back to movies. We'll maybe do a what if, but again, we have to do what we have to do here because with the, being nostalgic, we still have to, pay respects to the life and careers of certain people in the wrestling business. So hopefully we'll get back to our regularly scheduled PWRs, but I'm proud to do this with my brother TW. So because we celebrate life and we celebrate, what we've grown up and, again, we pay homage to the people who put their bodies on the line for this thing called professional wrestling. With that being said, I'm the professor. That's Mr. Wonderful, WWE its own, the Iron Stomach one, the man that just keeps folding his shirts. He's multitasking, but he's not looking at the camera. Goddammit,
Heidi. That's why I wear sunglasses for the record, because I can't tell where the camera is. And every time I looked at the screen, my eyes have been somewhere
the
else.
word is keep it kayfabe, but neither here nor there. That's TW. Tommy Wonder saying good night, and we'll see you next time here at the PWR podcast at Hami Media Group at podbeam.com. Peace and rest in peace to Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk.
And Bob Barker.